To make the beads using the Rinea paper, the foil paper, I cut it to be 3/4 of an inch wide by about an inch and a half long. The length is less important as the width is what you want to keep uniform. And what I've done here is lined it up on the end of a paintbrush handle and then just rolled it around the end of the handle, and it could be any size that you're interested in. This was the size that worked for me with the paintbrush handle, and I'm giving it a little bit of a firm press and pressure as I roll so that it will stay in the size and tight roll and the form that I want. Because the paper is coated with foil on both sides, there's no glue needed for it to hold its shape. However, you could use a touch of glue if you desired to do so, but it's not necessary. So rolling the paper around the handle and giving it a bit of pressure so that it holds its shape. So I've already started working on stringing the band for the bracelet. And what I have done is I've got my rolled paper here, and I took some stretchy cord, which is elastic, and worked with a really long piece, found the center, put a bead on, and put it down to the center. And then for each bead afterwards, you're going to take it and thread one end of the cord through the bead and then the other end of the cord through the bead. So you're kind of making somewhat of a figure 8, I guess I'd say. And then you're going to keep pulling until it gets down to the location that you want. And so you can see here that it's going in and out of all of them. You want to pull tight, but not too tight that you're going to break. And then you can see here that it is elastic. And so what's going on is the cord is going through. This is the end bead. This is where we'll join back up again. So it's going zigzag back and forth with this thread, and then the other thread is going the opposite direction. So you can see it's going back and forth this way. And so I'm just going to keep doing that, adding a bead by bead until I get to the end. Now I'm making this bracelet to be about 8 inches around, so it's not a tight bracelet but a rather loose bracelet, and then the elastic of the cord will help put it on your wrist, because I'm not going to do any kind of a clasp. It's just going to be a stretch bracelet. So I will come back and show you the project when it's done. I have all the beads strung now, and I'm going to finish off, but I wanted to show you a little tip for tightening things up. So I've already done this once at this end, but not all the way through the bracelet. So I'll show you how loose, you can see how spaced out just by threading these are, and then down here it's a little bit tighter because I've tightened up as I went. But what you do once you have your beads on here is you're just going to pull gently towards one end, and you can see that even though I've done this once already, I'm already gathering some excess elastic here. So I'm just going to work my way to the end. I don't have the other end tied off or anything, and you can see that this is, you know, starting to grab some of its own shape or kind of bounce back on itself because I'm pulling on the elastic tightly. I shouldn't say tightly, but not even firmly, I guess. I'm just pulling it more taut than it was. And ultimately, I don't want to break the paper or tear into the paper, even though it is very giving. Got one here that doesn't want to move. It's wrapped around the fold, that's why. Alright. So you can see I've worked quite an excess from that end. And so I just want to do this before I tie it off to finish it, because I really don't want it to be loose. The other thing that happened is I needed a little bit extra on one side, and it is really so easy to add on some cord, which I've done here with a little knot, and I'm going to hide that in the middle of a bead, just like that. But before doing so, I touched it with a little bit of glue, just to make sure that it doesn't come undone. And so just a regular white tacky type glue, quick drying, works fine for that. As I'm getting down to the end here, I'm finding I'm having to manipulate the elastic. Instead of pulling both sides, I'm pulling one and then the other to tighten things up. So I'm down to the last two beads here, with quite a bit of space. So I'm just gonna work on this end a little bit just to tighten it up some more before I finish off. So this gold one is my last bead. Just making sure I've got it as tight all the way across. So there. I can see where some gaps are happening. So, and that's just the difference in the size of the bead when I rolled it. They weren't perfect. I don't think anything that you make by hand ever is. We're seeing a little bit of that come into play here. So, and this one seems to be enjoying unrolling itself. So, I'll just roll that back up and tighten it down into place. Oh, got another one that's enjoying itself coming apart here. Just get that elastic back into the middle. Okay. So what I'm finding is the elastic wants to unroll the foil. I did not glue the foil shut. You definitely can. That's something you could do. I just didn't because the foil seems to hold itself in place. Alright, so before I tie this off, one of the last things I want to do is just measure and make sure that this will fit around my wrist. So I'm struggling here with these last two beads, not real sure why, but let me just work on them just a little bit more. Sorry, you're sitting through me futzing with this. Okay, so I'm just going to hold it tight, wrap it around my wrist, and see what happens when it meets up over here. And we can see that that fits fine. And then of course the elastic will make it so that it can come undone. So to finish off, I'm just going to go through my last bead here, or I should say the beginning bead, the same way that I worked all the other beads. Alright, I'm going to hold that tight. One more check to make sure that that fits well, and it does. That's what it's going to look like. So then what I'm going to do is tie these two together and hide it inside that bead. So I'm going to pull one side out and actually tie these two. And then depending on how it goes, I might actually glue it to the inside of the brown bead, because you can see my knot is going to be on the outside of the bracelet. Let me get this to pull in there tightly. Okay, good. So now you can see that there's the knot. So I'm just going to use a little bit of tacky glue on it. So let me show you this. I'm pulling it tight out so I can see the knot. Just going to put a little drop of glue. Now that could be, this is just a tacky glue, but you could definitely use like a super type glue that dries quickly. The glue, if you're interested, the glue I'm using is called The Best Glue Ever. It's made by Scrap Perfect, and I am on their design team as well. And I'm finding this to be my go-to glue for most things. So that's what I'm using. I'm going to go ahead and cut these strands off. That glue is going to take a little bit to dry, and that's okay. But what I can do is manipulate that knot inside that brown bead and get the ends in there as well. I am just using the paintbrush end that I actually use to roll the beads around, and that's it. So what it looks like, get this thread out of here. So that's what it looks like from the side. If you don't like the look of the white elastic there, you could definitely use a different colored cording as long as it had some elasticity to it. And without the elasticity, you would probably need to do some kind of clasp at the end, but then that makes it easy just to slip on and wear as a bracelet. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and that you will try out this foil paper that is made by Rinea.